Hello everyone! So in my last video I talked about what in my opinion are the features and structure that you can look to in order to kind of create a good one-shot. It's basically, think of it as a framework or a formula that you can kind of copy into your own work that just kind of saves time, and it just means that your party is guaranteed to have a pretty good time. If you haven't seen that video yet, the link will be available up here right now on the screen. Strongly recommend you check that one out first. But as promised in this video, I'm going to be following my own advice and creating a D&D one-shot before your very eyes using the advice that I gave in my own video. So the eagle-eyed among you will have spotted already that we are currently looking at ChatGPT. I'm using this today for pure expediency's sake. There are, of course, lots of different places that you can draw inspiration and ideas from. For example, in the past, I have created one-shots based around real-world events. For example, a few years ago, I ran a one-shot around about the same time as the Olympic Games, and so I made one where the party were challenged to complete a series of events based around, charisma, intelligence, wisdom, constitution. That was a lot of fun. A friend of mine once ran a one-shot where he was literally retelling Beauty and the Beast. Another friend created a one-shot that was totally ripping off Enid Blyton's Up the Faraway Tree, because there was like all these doors and they opened into random places and the doors kept changing randomly. Inspiration can come from anywhere. But today, for speed, our inspiration is going to come from AI because it's fast. However, we do need to be aware of the limitations of using AI like this, because I am 100% certain that whatever shows up today is going to be extremely generic and boring. ChatGPT, of course, is a large language model, so all it can really do is regurgitate some combination of what already exists out there. It can't create new ideas, it can only recycle old ones, but as a starting point, it is a good place to go. Just know that we are going to have to intervene heavily in order to make it good. So let's keep this simple. Let's say we want to create a one-shot for 4 level 5 characters, and yeah, let's see what it comes up with. Alright, so as you can see, it's come up with a fairly straightforward outline. It's quite basic, and this is the thing with ChatGPT. You're going to need to kind of adjust this because it's a bit lazy. Sometimes you have to force it to actually go into a lot of detail, but there's a lot of things here. There's a good starting point. So it's got the background, it's got an introduction, it's got an objective. So let's have a look. It's called the Lost Temple of Eternia. Awful name, but whatever. Deep within the dense jungle lies the Lost Temple of Eternia, an ancient structure rumoured to hold immense power and treasure. For centuries, adventurers have sought to uncover its secrets, but none have succeeded. Legend speaks of traps, guardians, and puzzles designed to deter the unworthy. However, recent rumours suggest that the temple's entrance has been uncovered once again, and treasure hunters flock to claim its riches. The adventurers find themselves in a bustling port town on the edge of the jungle. Rumours of the re-emergence of the Lost Temple of Eternia have spread like wildfire, attracting adventurers, scholars, and treasure hunters alike. A mysterious benefactor approaches the party with a proposition to fund the expedition into the temple, and in return they will share the spoils. Intrigued by the promise of untold riches, the adventurers agree, and the goal is to explore the Lost Temple of Eternia, overcome its challenges, and claim its treasures. Along the way, they may uncover the temple's history and encounter various obstacles, including traps, puzzles, and guardians. Encounters, we've got the jungle track. As the party wanders deeper into the jungle, they face natural hazards such as quicksand pits, carnivorous plants, and aggressive wildlife. The entrance, upon reaching the temple, the party discovers the entrance blocked by a massive stone door inscribed with ancient runes. Solving a puzzle of deciphering the runes unveils the way forward. Then there's the hall of traps inside the temple. The party encounters a series of deadly traps. They must use their wits and agility to navigate safely. The guardian statue at the heart of the temple stands a towering stone statue of a fearsome warrior. When approached, the statue animates and attacks the party, testing their combat skills. The puzzle chamber is a chamber filled with arcane symbols and mechanisms. The party must solve complex puzzles to unlock the door to the inner sanctum. And finally, the inner sanctum. The party reaches the inner sanctum of the temple, where they find a chamber filled with treasure beyond imagination. However, they soon discover the chamber's guarded by powerful magical constructs determined to protect its hoard. Yeah, so I'll say it right now. That that right there is way too much for a one-shot. So as I previously mentioned, you know, if you've got like a 4-hour session, you're going to be spending like 1 hour just getting the party together, giving them the hook. Then you've basically got like at the other end of things, you've got like a proper climactic boss fight. That's going to take about an hour. So really you've got 2 hours in between for everything else. And so those 2 hours would have to be for the exploring of this temple, for the fights, for the traps, for the puzzles. Realistically, going through all 6 of these things here is not going to work. But you know, so for example, like there's a lot of fat here we can trim. I don't see any point in doing this jungle trek at the beginning. That seems pointless. There's puzzles to then get into the temple, and then we've actually got a puzzle chamber. So just get rid of 0.5 here. But that's the great thing, you know. You know, this is literally, it took 2 seconds to generate, and I'm sure that, you know, you could generate this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, infinity times, until you get some sort of outline that you really like and can work with. But we're not going to re-roll the dice. We are just going to work with what we've been given here. First one shot we get. So yeah, what happens at the end? So after the fierce battle, the party emerges victorious, claiming the treasure of the Lost Temple as their own. They make their way back to civilization, reflect on their adventure and the dangers that they face. So, you know, for me, like that's a perfectly fine outline, but as I said, it's very forgettable. It's a bit boring, if we're honest. You know, you remember what I said in the previous video about the structure of a story? If we took the stages of the hero's journey, you can see that ChatGPT has basically followed that. We have the call to adventure, which is the temple appearing again after centuries and treasure hunters flocking to explore it. We have the point where they're going through the challenges and allies and the tests. That's the middle section here. That's the temple itself they're going through. And then at the other end, we have the ordeal in the innermost cave, which is of course the final climactic boss fight, followed by the reward, which is them getting the treasure. But then it immediately ends, you know, which is what I said before. You know, we're losing this entire back half of the session. Transformation, atonement, return. You know, this is the part that makes a story interesting and memorable. We've got a really good beginning to the story, but for me, it just ends at the end of the second act. And for me, that's actually the problem with a lot of one-shots. They often end at the end of the second act, just as they're getting interesting. It's like, oh, it's over now. Great, wonderful. So what's the solution here? So like I said in my first part of this video, really at this stage here where they've encountered this, or they've gone through the ordeal and they've got the reward, at this point you need to introduce some sort of serious character development. The character arc needs to complete. Because, you know, the character is changed or they are affected by the adventure and they come out of this crucible stronger than before. Now, obviously, you don't have control of the player characters. You as the DM can't choose whether the people that you're playing with are going to be affected by what they're going through. That is out of your control. But what you do have control over as a DM, what you do have control over are the NPCs. So what I would suggest introducing here is some sort of twist involving the NPCs. And, you know, ChatGPT has basically only given me one NPC to play with, so that's the one we're going to have to do this twist on. We have here this mysterious benefactor who approaches the party with a proposition to fund their expedition. Mysterious benefactor. I mean, I would say, and I'm just thinking aloud here, but wouldn't it be cool if the party goes into the temple, they find the treasure, and as they try to come out of the temple, this mysterious benefactor actually turns out to have been the bad guy all along. There's this kind of twist, there's this face-heel turn. He's actually going to steal the loot from them and seal away the party inside the temple. And then, I don't know, maybe the temple actually starts then sinking back into the ground. And now, suddenly, you've got the back end of the session being that the party now is like, we got to get revenge on that guy, he's just stolen from us. But first, we need to find a way to escape from inside this temple. How are we going to do that? We're trapped underground. suddenly it becomes more interesting. The stakes have been risen. What they thought was just a little jaunt through a dungeon has suddenly become a fight for their very lives. We've come out of the reward section and we're now into the road back. That is now them trying to escape from the temple. Once they actually do escape, maybe then this guy, this benefactor, is now in his full boss form, and he is now wreaking havoc on the town itself. That is the resurrection part of things, because now, oh gosh, now we've got to really take down this villain once and for all, and finally end the session. So from here, where would I go? So I think, obviously, we see here we've got a dungeon that we need to create. So the first stage, we're going to have to go over to a place that's going to make a dungeon for me. So I'm going to go over to this site here, Donjon, where we have a D20 random dungeon generator. And I really like this site, for generating dungeons quickly. It could do a lot of cool things. So what was the name of this temple? The Lost Temple of Eternia. Yeah, stupid name, but I'm just going to paste that here. We want 1 level, and this is going to generate a dungeon randomly for me. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of settings here. I know from experience the best way to do this would be as follows. So for a one-shot, we're going to want a tiny dungeon. Fine is what we're going to want. We're not going to have a lot of time to go through many rooms. We want it to be rectangular, yes, so it fits nicely on the screen. No peripheral egress. The room layout is actually going to be symmetrical, just because I prefer that, because like when humans build places, they tend to make them symmetrical. They don't just randomly scatter rooms around with no rhyme or reason. So I go with symmetrical because it makes the place look more constructed. Symmetrical, and then ignore the preview, by the way. That's not what it's going to look like. Polymorph rooms, no. I'm going to ask specifically for square rooms. Standard doors. We're going to have straight corridors. I'm going to remove the dead ends, and we're going to remove the stairs. All right, so here we go. So you can see it's created for me something very quickly. A single touch of the button, and we have a basic dungeon layout. So obviously I'm not in love with all of this. I'd say that this random corridor here doesn't seem to be adding much, and there's a couple of corridors here that don't really make much sense. You can see that this definitely wasn't made by a person, but like I say, it was just a single click of the button and just waiting 5 seconds. It's not terrible. But yeah, this is, let's have a look through this. So number 1 is where you start. So this is obviously some sort of entrance way into the temple. Going through, it looks like number 3 would then logically be like a main temple space. Then we kind of got some side rooms. I mean, it doesn't look like a very fun dungeon to go through. It seems a bit random, seems a bit chaotic. But is there a way to improve it? Well, yes, of course there is. First of all, let's see what it's actually given us. So it's telling us here that the walls are made of masonry. Fine. Floor is made of hewn stone. Difficult to run, slippery floor. I would ignore that. Temperature is cool. Illumination is average. Shadowy in corridors. I think that kind of makes sense. We could say there's maybe like skylights overhead, because if you remember, the temple was underground, so it's only just reappeared. Then we got wandering monsters. I tend to just ignore this stuff because I don't really like wandering monsters for one thing, but also, these guys just don't make sense. I mean, why would you have a troglodyte and a drow like in the same temple together? It doesn't make sense to me, this combination of monsters. So yeah, so number 1, you can go to the south. You've got a stuck wooden door. In the north, you've got a secret locked door. Goes through to 3, which is an empty room. Lovely. Then it says it goes to this room, which has a spider swarm. Yeah, so I think at this point, what I'm going to need to do is add a bit of sense to all of this. So I'm going to pull this map over into my art program of choice, which is Google Drawings. This just happens to be the one I use. You can use anything, Photoshop if you've got that. But yeah, basically what I'm going to do is take this as a starting point and kind of build over it. The nice thing about having a black background like this is that you can then actually, add black squares and it changes the shape of rooms. That's basically what I'm going to do. And so 3, 2, 1, click, there we go. I have taken the dungeon that I had originally and I have modified it. Woo, that's exciting. So it's it's basically the same layout as before, but what I've done is like adjusted and adapted it. So it's a bit more streamlined and some of the randomness is kind of gone. This corridor up here and this one down here have been cut off. That makes more sense. The entranceway to number 1 is still the same, but you can see I've made like a little egress into it, so it's obvious where the entrance is. And also you can see that I've made these 2 entrances symmetrical, because again, I think that's just how people build things, it's just more logical. So this, as we said before, is a secret door to the north, and this would just be a regular door to the south, and I'll make it quite a high DC to find, because what we want is to kind of encourage the party to go through this way into the main temple room. And so then I'm imagining at the top here there'd be some sort of dais, maybe a place where people would preach, and then that would mean that these rooms up here would be basically where the priests would kind of live and prepare for their services. And then here, this would be the main kind of treasure room. And you can see that between these 2 rooms, there's basically this is probably the biggest change I've made, because there's like a portcullis here blocking off the 2 sides of the room. And this portcullis, I would say the party can see through, and they can see on the other side that the room is full of treasure, but the party would not be able to get through the portcullis. It would be a very high DC to break into it. But on the other side of the room, they would see that there is a door there, and that would allow them to then locate the secret entrance very easily and get through that way. And in terms of fights, I think I'd probably have one like warm-up fight in the main temple area, and then I'd probably have like the main boss fight in the treasure room, and then obviously the final climactic fight once they've escaped from the temple at the end. So yeah, so that's the dungeon. What I'm thinking then is, how does this happen? So there's this mysterious benefactor that comes to them. What I'm imagining is that maybe the party at the beginning are just in town separately, they don't know each other, they just happen to be there. Suddenly there's this massive commotion, people start pointing and shouting, and you see them kind of running. There's an exciting buzz in the air. Maybe, you overhear rumours, the Lost Temple has reappeared, and then, the party gathers and they find, and there's a gathering there, and then there's someone at the head of the gathering kind of trying to calm everyone down, doing a bit of crowd control, saying, don't panic everyone, it's absolutely fine, yes, the temple's reappeared, we don't know why. Maybe at this point the party could learn a little bit about the backstory, like why did the temple disappear to begin with? If there's a lot of treasure inside, maybe we could say that the priests were being very greedy and they were stealing from the god, and then the god kind of punished them and cursed the temple, and that's why this god Eternia, hid the temple, something like that. And yeah, so this person is just trying to do some crowd control, telling them not to panic. So I guess that's going to be our benefactor then, and I guess that means he would have to be some sort of important person, like maybe some sort of like some sort of mayor or something. Yeah, so at this point I'm going to try and do a bit of NPC generation. So for this I'm going to jump over to another website. This particular one is called Tetracube. I think there's lots of them that are like this. But what I'm going to do is just kind of use this to just very quickly create random characters and backstories. So it's usually for PCs, but obviously we're going to use it for an NPC. And it's good, it just makes a whole bunch of them very quickly, and we're just going to go through and we're just going to find someone that looks like they could work in a position of authority. Yeah, this guy, yeah. Yeah, he's young, pure blood Yuan Ti. Looks kind of suspicious, Rogue Guild Artisan. I'd make him older than that. I believe anything worth doing is worth doing. I can't help it. Perfectionist. Hardly jealous of anyone that can outshine my handiwork. Everywhere I go, I'm surrounded by rivals. Yeah, I like this. This is pretty good. Obviously quite a greedy person. He has a nervous twitch and he squints, argumentative, and has overpowering greed. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So at this point, what I'm going to do is jump over into an image generator. So there's obviously a couple that you can use. Generally speaking, there's either Bing AI, which is pretty good. It has the benefit of being free, but unfortunately, it's well, you'll see, it's not always the best. It's pretty good at understanding prompts, but it does trend towards making things look quite cartoony. But yeah, we'll make a prompt based on this. 47-year-old man, slightly reptilian features, is in a position of authority as town mayor and has a nervous eye twitch and squint, is argumentative and greedy, wears elaborate, expensive clothes. I think that's enough to be getting on with. So let's just hit, see what it comes up with. And there he is. I mean, yeah, you can see it's pretty good for something we made in like 2 seconds. It's created some artwork, but honestly, it's not that great. This is the problem with Bing. Unless you really force it to do otherwise, it's going to trend towards this kind of cartoony art style. So my personal preference of choice is to go over to Midjourney instead, which is a much more powerful AI art tool, but has the drawback of being it's a paid for service. You have to actually pay for a license, which is why I showed Bing AI first, because that one is free. But yeah, Midjourney is very good, so that's what I'm going to use, because I do have a paid license. And I'm going to use the exact same image and... yeah, okay, so... slightly reptilian features becomes full-on dinosaur head. But yeah, this bottom one. Hello. Yes, I'm liking this. Yes. Yeah, just for fun, I think I'm going to do some variations on him. But yeah, that's going to be a tough one to beat. All right, so yeah, NPC art, Midjourney for the win. So the other thing I'm going to need some art for is the entrance to this temple, and also the town itself. So I'm just going to build those very quickly using the exact same processes. Now this video is getting quite long though, so I'm just going to very quickly do that. Now there we go. So this is the art that I've created for the temple entrance, and this is the artwork that I've created for the actual town itself, which I'm going to call Baycrest. And finally, this is a overhead battle map that I also asked Midjourney to create of that same town, because this can be the place where the final climactic fight takes place once the party escapes from the temple. In terms of creating balanced combat encounters, I mean, there's a few ways you can do it. You could just go over to D&D Beyond. It has this rather magnificent character fight creator here, and on this page here I'm just going to say that we've got a party of 4 level 5 characters, and I'm going to think, what could it be that this party is going to come face to face with that they could fight? So obviously we said we want like a speed bump fight, just a very basic fight in the first temple room. What could there be? Skeletons. It's an old temple. Let's put some skeletons. Let's put 4 of them, and those could be the priests that used to live down here. That's not a very challenging encounter. What else could we have? Oozes. Sure, why not? There we go. That's a medium combat encounter now. Done. Lovely stuff. Let's now build the boss fight in the treasure room. What could this be? Well, we need to find like a construct of some sort, and this needs to be a fairly difficult fight, but not really. It needs to be kind of like a switcheroo for the party. They need to think that this is the main climactic boss fight, but really it's not. Clockwork Stone Defender? 2 of them? Yeah, alright, that's it. That's the fight. Lovely, 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 lovely. And then finally, what could the main final fight be? Well, let's think. We had this mysterious benefactor. Presumably he's actually like polymorphed. He could be actually like some sort of monster in disguise. What monster knows polymorph? Oh, you know what he could be? He could be a dragon. Oh, I like that. And then maybe this Eternia character, the actual god in the past that buried the temple. That could be a dragon. And he could be like the dragon's child, because we don't want a fully grown ancient dragon, do we? We want a young dragon, a young green dragon. Yes, there we go. That's the fight. Wonderful. So there we go. I've built my combat encounters, and I think I've now got the basic shape of the session that I want to make. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these notes, all of the artwork, all of the stuff that's generated, and I'm going to come over into Google Docs here, and I'm just going to paste it all in. And I will be back in a second after I've had a chance to paste it in, and then I'm going to do some minor tweaks just to kind of get all of these things making a little bit more cohesive sense together as a full thing. So, boom, there we go, done. The Lost Temple of Eternia. I'm not going to say that this is the greatest one-shot ever made, but it's certainly the greatest one-shot that has ever been made in real time by ChatGPT while recording a YouTube video, and that is good enough for me. So, the Lost Temple of Eternia. This I will make available to anyone that wants to use it. You can find the description down in the doobly-doo, and you can go ahead and use it in your own campaign or adapt it as you want to. But hopefully you can find that everything here is in a pretty good state that you can take it and use it pretty much as is off the page. So, the background. Deep within the dense jungle lies the Temple of Eternia, an ancient structure rumoured to hold immense power and treasure. The temple was built in service to the Green Dragon Eternia, who led humans to these lands long ago and helped them carve out a life for themselves amid the harsh jungle environment. Over time, legend has it that the temple fell to corruption, its priests choosing to hoard gold and magic items rather than use them to help the people. Eternia cursed the temple, sinking it beneath the ground, where it has lain for centuries as little more than a myth. Introduction. The adventurers arrive separately in the bustling port town of Baycrest on the edge of the jungle. As they make their way through town, they suddenly become aware of commotion. People are running excitedly, and the party overhear rumours that their entrance to the Temple of Eternia has suddenly reappeared. If the party asks around, they can learn about how the temple vanished long ago and was believed to be a myth. A crowd is gathering near the edge of town, where the party sees a large area of cursed ground where nothing grows. There, in the middle of the darkness, the party sees a massive stone entranceway which has risen up out of the ground. Several guards stand in front of the entrance, blocking the way, and there is an important-looking man at the front trying to calm everyone down. This is Baron Aintree, and yes, his name is indeed an anagram of Eternia. Baron Aintree, he is the town's mayor. He is trying to calm down the crowd and is preventing anyone from entering the temple. They don't know what is in the temple, he says, or why it has reappeared. It could be dangerous. The Baron asks for volunteers to go inside and find out what is happening, and promises to split any loot they find 50-50. The loot was gathered for the people of the town, he says. If the temple has reappeared now, perhaps it means Eternia has forgiven them? Baron Aintree himself is a 47-year-old human man. He is a tall man but very ugly, who tries to hide his lack of looks with elaborate, expensive clothes. All of his traits and bonds here were taken directly from the AI. However, I have here added some insight checks, which are very useful. I like to kind of stagger my insight checks behind various strengths of roll. So, no matter what the party rolls, they get some sort of insight, because that makes sense to me. But obviously you have to roll really high to get the very good insights. So basically for free, I will give them this information that also came from the AI, which is that he has a nervous twitch and seems to have trouble making eye contact. If questioned about this, he will admit that he is worried about the people of the town being hurt, but this, you feel, is a lie. On a roll of 15, he has slightly reptilian features. If you question him about this, he will claim to have dragonborn blood in him. They are common in this part of the world. On a roll of 20, he is lying about sharing the gold with you. You have the impression that he doesn't think you will make it out alive, and he plans to use you as a canary in the coal mine to flush out the gold for himself. And finally, on a roll of 25, which is very high, but still possible, it strikes you that he does not seem entirely surprised that the entrance to the temple has reappeared. The fact that he was here so quickly after it re-emerged after centuries seems suspicious. So, just a few hints there that maybe this face heel turn that happens at the end of the story won't come completely out of left field for the party, but still, just kind of setting the ground in advance for that. So if the party tries to push him for more answers, he will insist that time's of the essence. They have no idea how long the temple entrance will remain here. They must proceed quickly. And if the party continues to dither, he will offer them 2 regular healing potions if they just go straight away without further delay. That line is entirely there because of the group that I happen to play with. They absolutely will dither if allowed to. But like I said in the first video, we are on the clock here. We've only got 1 4-hour session to get through all of this, so we need to move fast. And so if there's, if time is of the essence, I'm just like, look, here's 2 regular healing potions, get in there, do the one shot. All right, and then once you're inside the temple, everything is pretty much as I was saying to you earlier. The room number 1 is the main one. Room number 1 is the first one that you enter. This room seems to be an antechamber where worshippers prepare themselves for service. There are shelves for people to place their shoes, as well as the tattered remains of what might once have been prayer mats. A large basin stands in one corner where people ritualistically wash themselves, and all around the room are frescoes showing the dragon goddess Eternia. These frescoes show the story of her leading the people safely through the jungle and helping them establish the temple. In exchange for a portion of their gold and their adoration, she kept them safe and helped their community thrive. So a little bit of world building there, and also a little bit of kind of setting the ambiance for what's about to happen. There is some treasure in this room. There's a decanter of endless water next to the basin. It made sense to me that it would be there. Yeah, there we go. As said before, the door to the north is a secret door. Basically, the eye in the dragon in the final fresco can be pushed, and doing so makes that section of the wall pivot away. But the south entry is just basically a door which goes to room 3. Now, room 3 is basically the main temple itself. This large room was where the main temple chamber to Eternia. At the far end of the room is a large altar where the priest would perform ceremonies. Scattered throughout the room are strange brown stains which upon investigation reveal themselves to be long rusted metal objects. Everything of metal in this room appears to have corroded past the point of recognition. Across the back wall is a massive tapestry showing Eternia with her wings outstretched to encompass the whole of Baycrest at her feet, and in the middle of the room is what looks like the charred remains of a fire pit. Inside the pit you can see bones. So yeah, this is a temple area, and basically this is where the first encounter is going to happen. As soon as the party comes within 10 foot of the fire pit, 4 skeletons come to life and attack the party. This is headcanon here, but they are basically the remains of the priests that used to serve here. They were killed. As soon as the party comes within 5 feet of the altar, 3 grey oozes pull up from under the altar and attack, and headcanon, that's why the strange brown stains in the room, because everything that was metal has basically corroded away into sludge because of the grey oozes. There we go. So let's move on. So if you go north from there, you end up in room 2. Room 2 appears to be a space where the priests of Eternia prepared themselves for services. The room is filled with the remains of candles, incense, and corroded prayer scrolls. And if they look around a bit, they will also find a couple of things, like a small collections box containing 70 gold pieces in mixed change, and there's a couple of spell scrolls as well. Who knows? They might need them. Then they go further north and they end up in room 4A, and this is the room where I guess a bit more plot happens. The plot thickens a bit more here, because we need to now reveal why it was that the priests decided to turn on Eternia and why they betrayed her in the first place. So this room was a shared living space for the priests who once lived here. There is an area for them to prepare food, a writing desk, and a small bookcase now fallen into disrepair. On the other side of the portcullis, the party can see room 4B, which is filled with treasure. Passive insight of 12 or higher reveals that if this is what the priests saw every day while living in this place, no wonder they eventually turned against their goddess. On a DC 15 perception roll, the party can just make out the door at the south of 4B. And upon seeing this, the DC to open that secret entrance in room 1 drops to just a 12. On the writing desk, the party finds correspondence between one of the priests and someone from the town of Baycrest. The priest is complaining that Eternia is hoarding more and more of the people's gold and giving less and less in exchange. This is turning into a bad relationship, he says in one letter. The reply warns him against blasphemy and reminds him that she would kill him for saying such things. The priest replies that Eternia pays no attention to them. As long as her hoard of treasure grows, that's all she cares about. I see it right now, a massive pile of gold sitting there mocking me, and every day the sick and dying come here asking for help, and what am I supposed to do? Treasure inside the bookcase, there is a folded up portable hole, which is filled with human excrement. It would appear that the priests used this portable hole as a lavatory. It's always a question. It's a question because of me, to be fair, but it's always like, where are the toilets in this place? Well, here are the toilets in this place. The priests, they drank from a decanter of endless water, and they did their business in a portable hole. That makes sense to me. So anyways, the idea, of course, is that the party will make their way round to this room. They'll see the treasure, they'll want to get to the treasure, they'll see the secret entrance and they'll go round, and then finally they'll open the room 4B. And this room, of course, is filled with expensive trinkets and gold worth over 50,000 gold pieces, as well as a necklace of fireballs with 3 beads. I mean, to be honest with you, it doesn't matter how much gold you can have here. You can have infinity gold because it's a one-shot. It really doesn't matter. There are also 2 gold statues of Eternia standing on either side of the room, and as soon as the party enters the room, the 2 statues spring to life, declaring, "Intruder, you are not the dragon," and they attack. And they have the stat block of 2 clockwork stone defenders, but you just flavour it so they look like Eternia. At this point, of course, you'll then get the treasure, and you'll try and leave the dungeon. But here's the thing, of course, at this point, Baron Aintree will basically say to you that there's too much treasure here for you to take by yourselves, and he asks you to pass the treasure to him so that he can count it out properly. And whether you do what he says or not, Baron Aintree will immediately turn on the party. He will transform into a green dragon, which is his true form, and he will close the entrance to the temple after stealing the gold off you. The doors of the temple slam shut, and the temple starts shaking as it slowly descends into the ground. At this point, all light in the temple is extinguished, and the rooms fall into darkness. Previously, the room was lit through basically like skylights in the ceiling, but of course, as the temple sinks beneath the ground, those skylights get covered up by dirt again, and so the whole place becomes dark. Now, at this point, of course, you're then like, well, how do we escape? Well, you'll have noticed that there are 2 rooms I didn't go through before, and these are room 5 and room 6, and I'll just explain briefly what those are. So room 5 is basically where the priests used to sleep. There are 4 bedrolls and a chest containing a change of clothes. However, on a DC 15 investigation check, the party locates a hidden switch. Upon activating the switch, the party hears something like a heavy stone sliding away somewhere inside the temple. Where is that somewhere? Well, that somewhere is in room 6. This is a side chapel where worshippers would come for quiet prayer and contemplation. There is a confessional on one side of the room, as well as a statue of Eternia curled up as though sleeping. Once that hidden switch in room 5 is activated, the statue of Eternia is uncoiled, revealing a secret tunnel that leads back to the surface. Nice and simple, really, huh? Obviously, if the party is struggling to find that hidden switch, I would just allow them to find it basically anywhere. Again, this is a one-shot, you're on the party's side, you know, help them out. Time is of the essence. They need to find that secret entrance. Anyway, the aftermath is that upon escaping from the temple, the party then sees the dragon Aintree attacking the town and withering away the forest around it with its poison breath. If the party chooses to attack, then it fights with a young green dragon stat block using the battle map here. Make sure that he uses his fly speed every turn to fly from building to building, destroying each in turn when he isn't attacking the party. For the sake of destroying buildings, his breath weapon is always available, and he gets one legendary action per turn, which can only be used to attack buildings and kill nearby people. It's basically there as flavor, just to kind of add to the stakes, but it's not a legendary action in the true sense of the word, in that he's going to use it to attack the party. This is a tricky fight because he is going to be flying 80 feet every single turn, so from that point of view he's going to be quite hard to hit and he's going to move around a lot, but generally speaking it's not the hardest of fights. And there we go, that's the one shot. As always, like I said, all of the materials that I used for making this one shot can be found down in the doobly-doo. So that's the script that I was just running through, all of the dungeon map, all of the encounter tables, all of this stuff, the artwork, the battle maps, everything. It can just be found there. If you want to try running it yourself, if you want to see if you can improve on it, please go ahead. But yeah, in the meantime, I think this video's gone on long enough. So as always, have a fantastic rest of your week. Take care.